It's time for Baby and Toddler Instructions with host Blythe Lipman. Blythe is a nationally renowned infant and toddler expert who has over 30 years' experience helping moms and dads regain their sanity, teaching them how to survive, and giving them the confidence they need to be the best parents ever. From sleeping, to crying, to potty training, to choosing a preschool, and so much more. If you're a parent, Baby and Toddler Instructions is the show you've been looking for. Now here's your host, Blythe Lipman.
Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever in the world you might be. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy you could tune in today. The date today is the end of September 30th, 2015, and today's show is live. So if you have any questions or comments today, you can call us at 877-864-4869 with your questions, comments, and I will be happy to answer them. I have a great guest today. Her name is Debbie Popiel. She is a preschool director, and she'll be with us in just a bit. But first, happy fall. It's still the hundreds here in Arizona. Can you believe it? I think we're supposed to be 107 today. Oh, my goodness, but I am not going to complain. You know what? I just can't wait until it cools off. Usually October is the magic cool-off month, and we Arizonians have had enough heat, so enjoy the wonderful feel of the fall if you don't live here. And let's see, what else do I have to say? Oh, you know what? There were some recalls. We had a couple of them. My goodness, I hope you're not hearing all this noise in the background because it's very loud. Anyway, let me tell you about the recalls today. There were it's called the Chew Beads recalls of pacifier clips due to the choking hazard. The D-ring on the pacifier clip can break, allowing the beads to detach and pose a choking hazard. Yikes. You know what? Your little babies are teething. These are great, these necklaces and clips. And, you know, you wear the necklace or a bracelet, and they're actually teething beads, but you would not want them to fall off and go in your baby's mouth. So they're called Chew Beads. Chew Beads Inc. And then another company called the Land of Nod recalls mobiles due to entanglement and strangulation hazards. The yarn from the sheep figures can unravel, posing an entanglement and strangulation hazard to the baby. Oh my goodness, that's the Land of Nod. Anyway, I will put them on my website, mybestparentingadvice.com, and you can go to recalls, and I keep them all up to date. If you have something that's been recalled, please don't try to fix it yourself. Call the company, send them an email. I always put all the information, you know, even if it looks like it's an easy fix. I mean, also, I want to say something about, because of this sheep that unravels, there's lots of toys that you can buy for your little ones, and they have yarn around them, and it looks really tight. Make sure you check them. Once a week, once every 2 weeks, make sure you check everything to see that nothing's unraveling, there's no strings. You really don't want that stuff in your baby's mouth. So let's see what else we have today. I have a lot of things to share before I welcome Debbie. We are going to be talking to her about preschool, teachers, babysitters, all of that. And I wanted to share some tips from my book called Help, My Toddler Came Without Instructions. My chapter is called Mary Poppins, Are You Out There? Also, the reason I wanted to share this week is if you go to my website again, mybestparentingadvice.com, I just put a new blog post on there, and it's called Do I Have to Frisk My Babysitter? And it's all because I read an article about a little boy being accidentally shot because his babysitter was taking this gun out of a gun clip, and it accidentally discharged. And I would never think to frisk my babysitter, but I'll tell you what, when I do an update on my book, I'm going to have to include it because, you know, nowadays people have guns and you just don't know. And my question is, if you were going to hire a babysitter and you knew he or she carried a gun or a laser gun or a stun gun, would you hire them? So anyway, here are a couple questions you can ask them that don't have to do with guns. When you go to interview somebody, ask them, what do they like best about children? Why do they want this job? Make sure you check and see if they have any allergies or medical conditions you need to know about. And if they know CPR, also ask them if they have pets and they like pets if you happen to have one. Also, this is an important one people forget. Do you have any plans for the future if you're going to be hiring somebody, a marriage, a trip, so you know all of a sudden somebody doesn't say to you on Tuesday, I can't come the rest of the week, or I can't come on Saturday. Really, really important, another tip from my book. What would warrant you to call me? How do you handle tantrums? What about if my 2-year-old won't stop screaming? Or what about if the baby won't stop crying? How do you handle that? And when do you think it's appropriate to call me or, my partner, husband? Anyway, I have an entire chapter on that in Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions and Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. And these tips are so important because when you do go to hire somebody, if you just don't feel right about it, you know what? Don't hire them. Usually our intuition is right. You don't always have the answer. So that was from Help My Toddler Came Without Instructions. Also, there was an article. It just made, it's not funny, but this happened a number of years ago. It says, USA Today described the aftermath of 5 L.A. nursery school teachers accidentally eating pot brownies as suffering because they suffered neurologic symptoms associated with being stoned. And you know what? Here's the reason. One of the teachers very nicely bought the brownies from a street vendor who she knew had great, baked goods, and she'd bought them before. And apparently this street vendor decided to put something special in these brownies. And that's pretty scary because one of the moms who breastfed her baby actually ate a half a brownie and an hour and a half later fed her baby. And she had to go to the hospital. And fortunately she was fine and the baby was fine. However, here's word to the wise. If you are going to buy something, buy it in the grocery store or buy it from somebody you know that's reputable. Anyway, because that's pretty scary to find your preschool teacher stoned. Also, another thing I wanted to talk about this was a number of years too. I was looking for some preschool articles, and I don't know if you remember this. A mom sued a Manhattan preschool for being nothing more than one big playroom. And it says, if I were paying close to $20K for my kids' preschool education, if that's what we're calling finger paints, nap time, juice, and cookies, I would expect her to come home daily with a gilded brain and diamond-encrusted paper mache while alternating between Swahili and Russian as she recites the Declaration of Independence, to ensure that the curriculum isn't too provincial. Apparently, this one mom felt the same way as she was paying $19,000 a year to a Manhattan preschool and claiming it wasn't sophisticated enough, and she's suing the school to get her money back. Now, this was a couple years ago, and I'm bringing this up because we're all going to talk about preschool on the show with Debbie. Anyway, she sued the school. I guess they gave her money back, and, it really got me to thinking one of the reasons that she put her in this very elite preschool was it shows she could pass an entrance exam to get into another preschool. Now, we all have a right to do whatever we feel is good for our children. However, when do they get to play? I mean, I say this on my show a lot, and my guests and I talk about this. Preschool, yes, you can learn colors. Yes, you can learn numbers. Yes, you can do art projects. But you know what? You have to let your little one be who he or she is. And to put these big expectations on these young children and on a school to have them perform a certain way, I just think it's not fair because they're developing. Their brains are developing. They're like little sponges. They take everything in, between 2 and 5. They're really like sponges, not that they don't learn after that. Anyway, so I shared this because when you do go to find a preschool, make sure you have the right expectations. And Debbie Popiel, my guest and director of a preschool, and I will talk more about this during the entire show. So I want to tell you a little bit about her. Not only is she a busy mother of 2, of Samuel 19 and Gabriella 13. And by the way, I took care of Gabriella when she was 6 weeks old in one of my infant rooms, and now she's 13. Boy, does that make me old. Anyway, Debbie has done so many things in her life. She was a preschool teacher, and she was the educator in residence for an adventure rabbi, creating high holiday and Passover curriculum in Colorado and Utah. She's taught dance, religious school, art, yoga to youth. She created and taught caregivers and classes to families. She's facilitated training wheels through the Bureau of Jewish Education. She's been a guest lecturer for Baby University. Oh, my goodness, this goes on. Debbie has done so much, and I have known her for many, many years. And I have to say she is very excited because she is the director at the Bethel Preschool here in Arizona. And I have to say, this is so true. Her door, as well as her heart, is always open. I mean, I've known Debbie for years. She's a terrific woman, educator. I mean, she is open. Her ideas for letting little ones be little ones, I can tell you that I've talked to her many times, and she likes to see children go home with paint all over them because it means they painted and had a good time, and nobody was worried about where that paint went. So before the commercial break, which is coming up in just a little bit, I want to welcome Debbie to the show, and when we come back, we have lots of questions and lots of things to talk about. So, Debbie, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Blythe, and thank you for that beautiful introduction. I'm awed and flattered, so thank you for those kind words. I appreciate it. I didn't realize I'd done so much until you started saying how much you've done.
You have done so many things, and you know, after knowing you, your heart has always been in everything you've done. I've seen you do lots of things, and I am just so grateful to have you on the show, and I want to, share lots of information with parents that are thinking about putting their little ones in preschool, or they're in there and they're not quite sure how to handle certain things, because I know you have the wonderful answers to make them all smile and to make their little ones smile. So when we come back from our commercial break, we are going to talk about everything from how do you choose a preschool to what do you do when you're in there and you have an issue and you're not quite sure, you know, where to take it or how to handle it. And I'm going to ask you for a favorite parenting tip because you're a great parent. So here comes the music. Stay with us.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these. In today's business world, a helping hand or idea that doesn't come with an invoice is a treasured find. And if that happens to you, then you need to pay it forward to keep other entrepreneurs from making mistakes or getting a raw deal. It's called Paying It Forward with Josephine Gerasi, Wednesday mornings at 10, 9 a.m. Central. Josephine is going to have the guests describe their accomplishments, the lessons they've learned, both good and bad, and then sharing those pieces of knowledge as we create a movement of paying it forward. For more information about Josephine, her business, and background, you can go to mymomknowsbest.com. Josephine Gerasi has always been a problem solver. She saw this need and has turned it into a movement. It's Paying It Forward with tips, tools, and advice and hard lessons learned. These pieces of knowledge can make a huge difference for you, your business, and others. So join us for Paying It Forward with Josephine Gerasi, Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m., 9 a.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
It's words you never heard.
The word perfume comes from the Latin perfumum, which means through smoke. Eau de Cologne comes from the name of a town in Germany where this type of perfume originated. The French say the only reason to wear perfume is to attract the opposite sex. Oh, and never ask a French woman what scent she wears, as they prefer to keep it hugger-mugger or secret. Perfumes are generally made from bits and bats of different materials that have unique scents. You know, if women are trying to attract men, why do we wear perfume that smells like flowers? I think we'd get more guys if we smelled like bacon. The best advice for applying perfume is just a dabble do. What's a word for a trifling amount? Hitherx sans Kitterax.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in to Baby and Toddler Instructions. If you're listening live today and you have a question during the show, you can always call us at 877-864-4869. We love callers, so dial that phone number. It's a free call. Anyway, I am here with my wonderful guest today, Debbie Popiel. She's the director of a preschool. She's done so many things. She's been in the early childhood education field forever, and you know what? She is one of the warmest, most wonderful women I've ever seen. When she sees a baby, a toddler, a child, you can just see her heart almost comes out of her chest because she's so warm and wonderful. So follow that up, Debbie.
Well, thank you.
It's so true. Anyway, let me ask you a question. How did you always want to be a preschool director or be in education?
I did always want to be in education. I did always want to be a teacher. However, when I was in school, I was dissuaded from going into education. At the time, the field of education was very saturated, and I was told that there was no money to be made as a teacher, as many of us know. It's a poorly paid profession monetarily. And so I was dissuaded, and I came from a family of people who had a background in business. And so I went to business school. I got a degree in marketing. And I went and did the working girl thing in New York City and worked in advertising and publishing, and it was wonderful. And then I moved to Arizona, and I got a job in retail also as a manager. So I was using my business experience, and then I had my son. And I was in a situation where I was taking a class with him at Gymboree, and I was probably the loudest, most enthusiastic mom in the class. And the owner of Gymboree came over to me afterwards and said, "You're the loudest, most enthusiastic mom in the class. Have you ever thought about being a teacher?" And I kind of shared with her, it's funny you should say that. And I had. And at the time, I was staying home with my son. So I had the opportunity to train with Gymboree and become a Gymboree teacher and just really express myself so joyfully and in such a wonderful way with children and developed, I always knew I loved children, but to really develop this love of teaching and watching children and parents learn, because Gymboree are mom and tot type classes. And from there, then I began to work in a preschool with my son and really learn early childhood education, which became my love. And I left early childhood education at the time. I became divorced, and I needed something else, financially, and was working in an office job and was not satisfied at all. And in the end, where I needed to be, like in my gut, in my spirit, deep down in my soul. And I had my daughter, who you were taking care of, and then we were at a preschool that, after you had left your infant room, we were at a preschool that needed a director. And I thought, wow, I could be a manager and be around kids. I could use my business degree, and I could also be around children and be in the community and talk with parents and get that fulfillment. And that's how I became a director. It was really the marriage of both of the things that I am trained in and that I truly love. Because when I became a teacher, when my son was young, I went back to school and I got my early childhood degree and went back and learned all about that. So I was able to do both, and I really do feel, it sounds almost goofy, like it's my calling. It's what I'm meant to do. I'm completely fulfilled and happy every day going to work because I love what I do.
You know what? It's not goofy, because any of my listeners out there, if you have young children as they grow up, really listen, like to your intuition when you're choosing a preschool. Listen to your intuition about yourself, because you can call it a calling. You can call it anything you want. But, if you find something that's not a job and you love it, it shouldn't be a job. When you go to it, if it feels not good, maybe that's not what you're supposed to be doing. But anyway, we're talking about preschools here. So, I talked about a mom suing a preschool. because she paid exorbitant amount of money a month, and I don't know what she expected. But I wanted to share that article because when a parent or an expectant parent is looking for a preschool, what makes a good preschool? What do you think, 1, 2, and 3 they need to look at off the top of their head?
Well, I do think a big piece is something that you've already touched upon, is that warmth and the genuineness of not just the leadership of the school, but the feel that you get when you walk into the school. Are you welcome? Does it feel warm? Does it feel comfortable? Do you get a good feeling in your gut? You're leaving your child. You're always going to have a lump in your throat, right? My son's 20 years old and just moved out, and I cried like a baby. But I didn't have a pit in my stomach thinking he wasn't ready, he wasn't prepared, or was he going to be okay? And that's the difference. You're always going to feel a longing for your child because it's your child. That's your flesh and blood, regardless of how they came into the world or came into your life. They are your child, and you have to go with your gut. So that would be my first thing. What is your feeling the second you walk in? Do people greet you? Do they smile at you? Is it a safe place to walk into? Our school has security. You can't get in without being a parent or a teacher in the school with a specific little fob that you wave in front of the security on our door to unlock it. If you don't have that fob, you have to ring the doorbell. I have to look at you through a camera. I don't have an appointment with you. I'm going to ask you, why are you here? Who are you here for?
And that's so important. You know what? If you can just walk in the door, you know what? You don't want to be there. You don't want to just walk in the door, because that means anybody can just walk in the door.
Exactly, and it is a somewhat sad testament to the world that we live in, but it is the world we live in. So if it's the world we live in, we have to make sure that we're protecting our children. So that's first and foremost. Is it safe, and do I feel comfortable? Because the other piece that I know you're aware of is your children are going to pick up on your vibe. So if you're not feeling like it's safe and comfortable, your child's not going to feel like they're safe and comfortable. And then drop-offs are going to be more difficult. Even any types of issues that may come up during the course of the year, whatever they may be, are going to be more problematic. And I think the second thing is you have to ask as many questions as you can think of. If you can't think of them all, you need to really look towards the leadership to say, to guide you on that tour of the school. Are they open? Are they accepting? Do they have policies and procedures in place? Because those things do need to be in place. It can't just be namby-pamby, free love. There needs to be an element of that, but there needs to be process and procedure. There needs to be a sign-in book. Again, that's a piece of security. It needs to be clean. That's one of my biggest things I say to parents all the time. When you walk in, it shouldn't smell like anything.
I'm so happy you said that. I'm so happy you said that, because your school smells clean all the time. And when I first walked in, when you became the director, I said, my gosh, this is spotless in here. And that's different than having paint all over because the kids are having fun.
It is. And see, messy and dirty are two different things. Messy is appropriate for toddlers, for young children. That they learn, and we'll talk about that because I know you brought up that parent who sued the school. I'm sure we'll talk about that. But messy, an environment that allows a child to explore freely, is different than a dirty environment. And when you walk in, it shouldn't smell like cleaning fluid, and it shouldn't smell like a dirty diaper. It should just smell good. It should just be clean, and it should be organized, because even when children are playing, there should be an order to what's available to them. It shouldn't just be a big kind of messy pile of toys or artwork or things along those lines. So those are the things I look for. How welcoming is it? How safe is it? How clean is it? Because then once you get inside, then you're going to start asking the questions. And that's when you're going to really uncover it.
Don't you think even before you get into the school, when you walk in, that gives the appearance, too, if there's a nice sign about the school, if there's bushes and weeds and looks like there's a fence laying down or something. I've seen preschools that maybe they don't have time, but that's the first impression even when you just walk in the door.
It really, truly is. And that means if it's unkept, then what else is not being attended to, right? Then I would wonder, are teachers having background checks? Are the teachers qualified? is the director qualified? I would wonder if you're letting your school get overgrown and look messy and in disarray, what else are you not attending to? Plus, that's dangerous, right? Weeds and things like that might obscure your vision. You're not able to properly supervise children out on the playground. It might, it just might be dangerous. It could be tripping hazards. So those are the type of things, again, go back to safety and attention to detail. And I think those pieces, that first impressions really do count. They really do matter because it's difficult enough. And I left my daughter when she was 6 weeks old to the day. She was born on a Wednesday. 6 weeks later on a Wednesday, I had to go back to work. It was all I had, time off. And
so
if I didn't feel, and it's heartbreaking sometimes. All the time. But you have to feel safe and comfortable, and you did everything to make me feel that way.
Oh,
and the room and the building that she was in and the leadership did everything to make me feel that way. I could go to work and do my job.
And that's the most important thing. When you leave your child at preschool, whether they're a new baby, whether they're a 3-year-old, when you walk out the door, you want to know that they're safe. You want to know that if you have a question, also, we're going to break for commercial in just a few seconds, but you want to know that if you have a question during the day, that you can call the preschool. You can talk to the director. You can ask her what's going on in the room, and she'll go look. Or, if they have something that the teacher can talk to you during her break. If anybody puts you off, then you want to think twice about that preschool. And what I always tell parents is, if you've made a decision to go to that preschool, I always tell parents, drop in. Don't make an appointment. Drop in unannounced, because I've said this for years. It's like our house. When we know we're having company, we clean. So sometimes, and again, it's not the messy and it's not the dirty, but sometimes, if you walk in without the appointment for the interview, you can really see what's going on. And I guarantee you, if it's a great preschool, you'll look in the window, you'll go in the room, and you'll see the kids having a blast. You'll see the teachers smiling and having fun, with whatever activity they're doing. And it's not because they knew you were having a tour and you were going to drop in that day. So when we come back from the commercial break, I have a lot of questions, and if you have any, call us at 877-864-4869, and I'm going to ask Debbie how far in advance you should look for a preschool. So stay with us. We will be right back.
We'll be right back with more help. For help, my baby came without instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, I need you.
If you could live your life truly standing in a place of peace, joy, and abundance, wouldn't that make your heart soar? Now you can, with Lessons in Joyful Living, with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi, Mondays at noon Central. Kimberly Rinaldi, having created a highly successful coaching practice, now teaches lessons in joyful living. She believes in empowering others, and that through it, you have the ability to break through any and all barriers, thus allowing you to reach your greatest potential and joyfully step into your life's purpose. What used to take weeks, months, or even years, she can now teach you in a matter of hours with her programs. For more on Kim and her show, go to her website, KimberlyRinaldi.com. That's RINALDI.com. Then join us for Lessons in Joyful Living with your host, Kimberly Rinaldi.
It's words you never heard.
Have you ever had a brain freeze? That excruciating headache you get when you drink or eat anything cold too fast. What's the word for eating quickly? Yaffling. The medical term for a brain freeze is phenylpalatine ganglioneuralgia. Brain freezes are caused by a nerve center along the roof of your mouth, which controls blood flow to your brain. When this nerve center gets too cold, it tries to warm things up by dilating the blood vessels to your brain, which causes that intense pain you feel in your head, also known as a shake ache, frigid face, freezy, or slurpy tumor. Brain freezes only last for about 30 seconds. But those 30 seconds can seem like forever. Next time you need quick relief from a brain freeze, try putting your tongue in the roof of your mouth or drinking something warm.
It's words you never heard.
I'm Carolyn Davidson, and Words You Never Heard has been brought to you by the Bariatric Surgery Center of Dallas.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back. Thanks so much for tuning in to Baby and Toddler Instructions. If you are listening to a podcast and you have a question, you can always contact me via my website, mybestparentingadvice.com. And I always put all my guest information on my website as well under podcast. So if you need to contact them, their contact information is there too. And also, one more thing, don't forget to listen to our other great shows on TogiNet. We have such wonderful hosts, such an array of different topics. So thought I would say that today. Anyway, I'm here with Debbie Popiel, and we are talking all about preschool. So before the break, I was talking to you, and you wanted to say a little more about parents dropping in unannounced.
Yeah, I think it's very important. You had mentioned, when people come over to your house, you clean your house and you're kind of waiting for them. But if you have unexpected guests, like if an unexpected guest were to walk into my home and I wasn't prepared, the house might be a little messy. I might have to pick up a few things, but I'm still going to be welcoming and open and accepting. And those are the things you want to look for. And while an unexpected tour to come into the school may put a little bit of a glitch in my day, I welcome it because it is the best way to see the school. Now, I may say if a person calls up to say, hey, I want to find out more information about your school, I'll give them some information over the phone and say, listen, come in at any time. However, I want to make sure I have enough time for you, so let's schedule some time. But if a place is very adamant about an appointment or you can't see the director or come in for a tour without an appointment, I would be a little leery because then they're probably scheduling it at times of the day where it's not too hectic and times of the day where wonderful things are going on, and maybe not at a time where you're going to see a true transition. And sometimes transitions can be, a little challenging, and you want to see the real environment. So it's very important that also once you are a parent in the school that there is an open door policy. Now, not to the point of disruption of your child's day, but it's very important that the school is open to you and your partner at any time to come in and see your child and should welcome you with open arms as a guest into the classroom. It's an important part for your child also to see that we're including you in their day and that it is one big community because it does take a village, and we say that all the time in our field. And as the director, every parent in the school has my cell number. And people look at me and go, really? You want to give them your cell number? Yeah, I do. I want to give them my cell number because they should have access to me. They have a question during the day, or if they need to reach me or they have a question about their child, they should be able to reach me at any time, and I should be able to give them the information that they need.
Exactly.
It's their child, after all.
I do want to add one thing as a teacher in an infant room or just a teacher in general in a preschool. I love the open door policy, but if your child is young enough and they still nap, sometimes to call first and see what your child is doing, because if your child's napping and you come into the infant room and you wake them up, I have to say as a teacher, it's not always the greatest thing because they get upset and then everybody else gets upset. So while the open door policy is wonderful and we always welcome parents into our room, if you're not sure what they're doing, call first. Just give a call and say, is my baby sleeping? And if you're in the area and your baby's not sleeping, or even if you just want to come in and not wake them up, I think that's important to know too. But again, you should be able to come to the preschool anytime you want. And when they say no, then you know what? You have to say no. There's something not right there in my book anyway. What about, how do you screen the teachers? How should they be screened? Because we're talking about guns. How do you know your teacher doesn't have a gun? I hate to say that, but...
It's a great question. It really is. And especially in our state where people are legally allowed to carry a gun on their person. it's very important that you ask the questions. As the director, you want to have very in-depth conversations with candidates before you hire them. One of the ways that I screen, one of my first screens, is I'm a big believer in referrals. So most of the teachers that work for me or have worked for me, I know through other teachers that I hold in high, have accolades of their own, and I hold in high regard. And I also check references of everybody, and not just the references that they write down, because everybody writes down people that are going to say nice things. I check previous employers, which is very important. The other thing I do in my hiring process, besides doing, of course, a fingerprint background check, is I also do what I call a working interview, where I bring someone in. Now I've met them. Now I have the opportunity to bring them into the classroom and spend a little time in the classroom that we're maybe thinking of hiring them for, so they can spend time with who's going to be their teaching partner, and we can see them in our environment, and they can see our environment, because it has to be a fit both ways. If you don't want to get messy, you probably shouldn't work in our preschool. Right? And that's okay if that's who you are, but that's not going to be a fit for us. So you have to spend a lot of time with them to make sure that they're a fit, philosophically and also personality-wise. And you also have to do the proper background checks, because that by far has to be first and foremost. Again, it goes back to safety. And to be honest, I never asked a teacher if they're a gun owner. But it may be part of my interview process now.
Right. You know what? I would have never thought of it either, to tell you the truth, until I read this. But it's really important. Let's go the other side of the coin. What about if you have your child in preschool and there's an issue with a teacher? How do you tell parents to handle it, and what should they do? Do they go to the teacher first? Do they come to the director? What do you think?
No, I think it's important that there's obviously different issues. I think if it's a safety issue, if you really have some concerns about the safety of your child, you have to, first of all, you have to be in an environment, again, it goes back to picking the right environment, be in an environment where you feel comfortable to have the difficult conversations. You should be able to talk to your child's teacher. If something is rubbing you the wrong way, if you don't understand that something that's going on in the classroom, curriculum-wise, if your child's coming home messy and you're not understanding why they're messy, because there is a purpose behind that, you need to ask the teacher that question. If you have concerns about your child's development and you're concerned about their speech or you're concerned about anything else developmentally, again, bring it to the teacher, and then in the school that's run appropriately, our school, the teacher's going to bring it to me, and then we're going to have a conversation, the parents and me and the teacher. So always go to your teacher first. If you have a situation where you're not comfortable going to your teacher and you need to go to the director, you should also have that line of communication and be comfortable with it. So it has to be open communication. The director has to be supportive of both the parent and the teacher, and if it's something that is part of the school's philosophy, then it has to be explained in a manner that the parent understands it and that they're okay with it. And if there's real concerns with development, then together we have to figure out what kind of resources do we have in the community to bring somebody in to provide an observation and to provide services if that's what's necessary. Because that's really, that's real at this time in their life also. And early intervention, we know, can help ready them for school, speech, and things along those lines.
That's so important. And, I just want to add to it, there are no silly questions, because don't forget, especially if it's your first child, you've never done this, and there are no silly questions. Don't ever be afraid to ask a question. They're all really important questions. These are your children, and you want to know what's going on. And if, I have had parents tell me, I thought about this for a week, and I said to them, don't ever think about a question for a week. If you want to know something that's going on in the room or with your baby, call me. And I also give out my cell phone number because I think
by the way, it's so important. When my daughter was in your baby room, having that cell number it was like my lifeline. It made me feel so safe and so comfortable that I could ask all kind of the crazy questions or call 10 times if I needed to call 10 times. And if you're ever, as a parent, feeling like you can't do that or you shouldn't be doing that, again, you may not be in the right environment for you. Because within reason of calling and asking questions during the day, you're entitled. It's your child. So you should be able to have that opportunity. Nobody should make you feel like you don't have that opportunity.
No, but I think we do need to say too, though, if you want to call your director or the preschool teacher and they can't talk, don't take it personally. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we're so busy. I know in my infant room we have 12 babies, and I have 3 wonderful teachers that work in there with me, but many times we'll have 3 or 4 babies that need to be fed the same time, and you have a question because it's your break. And in as much as I would love to talk to you at that particular minute, please don't ever take offense if you call your teacher and they say, can I call you in a couple of hours or when I get home? Because it does get very busy in our rooms with the little ones that are having so much fun.
Mm-hmm. Good point. It really is. And I think I've been in that situation, and most parents say at that time, no, I completely understand, right? Because they understand that you're taking care of their child. And so that's the priority. It always is at that particular moment. But you should at least feel comfortable in being able to ask, like you said, no silly questions, to be able to ask all the questions. No matter how silly they may sound in your head, it's okay to ask them.
Exactly. Well, we're going to have a commercial in a couple minutes, but let's touch on this really briefly. How far in advance do you think parents should start looking for a preschool?
It depends on your community. We have a wait list in our baby room. So a baby room for sure, you want to really start looking like at least 6 months out. You're pregnant. You're going back to work after baby comes. You want to make sure that you're starting to do at least the preliminary research. Maybe not the visits, but definitely do your research of geographically where you want to be and philosophically the type of school you want to be in, so that you can kind of then pinpoint it as you get closer.
Exactly. And also, if you ask your friends for recommendations, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to agree with where they send their child to preschool. And that's okay, because we're all different, and not every preschool is a fit for every child. Because I've had moms tell me, well, my best friend told me this is the best, but my baby's not doing well, or my toddler's not doing well. And it's okay. You know what? We're all so different. Whatever feels right, that is the key. So when we come back from the commercial, I'm going to ask Debbie what her favorite parenting tip is, because she has 2 wonderful children, one very grown up, as she said, on his own. Can't believe it. And little Gabriella, who is not little Gabriella anymore and towers over me and was holding one of the babies in my preschool, in my infant room, that we took pictures of. It made me want to cry, maybe first because I felt really old, and second because it was wonderful. No, I didn't feel old. Anyway, we will come back after the commercial, and Debbie will tell us her favorite parenting tip. Stay with us.
We'll be right back with more Help My Baby Came Without Instructions. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet. We'll be right back right after these.
Have you heard? The pages of American Patchwork and Quilting magazine come to life on our new weekly online radio show, American Patchwork and Quilting. Join Pat Sloan, our blogging and quilt designer host, as she talks about the latest trends, ideas, and inspirations. Her guests include quilt pattern designers, authors, quilt shop owners, and our editors, all quilters just like you. Call in with your questions. Get quilting tips from industry experts. Learn about free patterns. Hear behind-the-scenes stories from our magazines, American Patchwork and Quilting, Quilt Sampler, and Quilts and More. Get the scoop on free stuff and find out more about the best independent quilt shops in North America. To listen to a live show, tune in Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Just log on to allpeoplequilt.com/radio. To hear past shows, go to iTunes and search for American Patchwork and Quilting Radio. We hope you'll join us, because we know that quilting changes everything.
This is the TogiNet Radio Network, radio with a cutting edge.
Do you ever wonder if you're the only woman who runs errands in her yoga pants so it will look like she went to the gym? Or how about the only mom who feeds her kids raw cookie dough? Or are you the only one who cooks her family cold cereal for dinner? Do you need more laughter and less loudness? More self-love and less self-loathing. More joy and less judgment. You're not alone. Come to the living room, a place where we get comfy, candid, and confident together. Come seeking sanctuary and leave feeling renewed. We're saving a seat for you. Give yourself some living room today.
Welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet, the hour for all moms with little ones to come for great advice, encouragement, and great ideas for all new parents. Now, back to the show with Blythe Lipman.
Well, welcome back to Baby and Toddler Instructions. I'm here with my wonderful guest, Debbie Popiel. She is a preschool director, and I can't believe we're up to the last part of the show. But she did want to share one other thing about registering for preschool, and then she's going to tell us what her favorite parenting tip is. So, Debbie, you're on.
So some schools, like our school, for example, we register for the following school year that starts in August, 6 months before, back in January. So just look at that also. Some schools are year-round, which we do offer a summer program, but some register that far out. So just keep that in mind. Don't wait till July if you're thinking they're going to start school in August.
That's a really good tip because it's true. Sometimes you wait till the last minute, and it's tough because you can't get in. So, first of all, before you tell me your favorite parenting tip, tell my listeners, if they live in Arizona, where they can find your wonderful school to register.
Well, we're at Beth L. Early Childhood Center, which is 11th Avenue and Glendale Avenue in Phoenix, right in Central Corridor, which is absolutely beautiful, a wonderful older part of Phoenix. And our number's 602-944-2464. You can call me. And you can email me, too. My email is dpopiel@bethelphoenix, all spelled out, .com. So I hope that some of our listeners will ask me questions and come in and call me and take my advice and do all the things I told them to do, which is just drop in and say hello to me.
You will love it. You know what? So if you're pregnant or if you have a child, go see. It's a wonderful school. So do you have a favorite parenting tip?
I really thought about this over break, and I have to say the first thing that came to my mind is to be consistent and be organized. I'm not organized by nature. I'm organized by nurture, and being organized as a parent, from whether they're toddlers or teenagers, is just imperative to success. Laying out clothes, we've been laying out Gabriella's clothes. She does it because it's completely free choice in our house, but she does it the night before. And that little piece of consistency in her routine and organization has really helped us as being a busy working mom. And consistency isn't always easy. It's much easier to give them a candy bar when they're screaming in the grocery store. But the candy bar proverbially gets bigger as they get older.
Oh,
You start off, right? It does. And if you start off consistent when they're young, you not only train, you not only really model the behavior for them of boundaries and appropriateness, but you train yourself. Because we have to train ourselves as parents. Like you said, it doesn't come with a book. So we have to train ourselves to be consistent. And that is probably the best advice I can give because it's come in handy at every stage of their life.
You know what? I love that. And I share consistency all the time because it is so important. And even in our own life. Also, when they're little and they pick out their own clothes, it's great for self-esteem too. It's just great. So let me ask you, what is the best part about being a preschool director?
Well, it's easy. It's the kids, seeing the children every day. That is it's the highlight of my life. I have one little girl who runs in every day with a smile on her face and gives me a hug. And I tell her I'm happy to see her, and she smiles, and she's 2 years old, and runs into her classroom, and that is it. That's what it is about right there. And reaching children is amazing, but also being a resource for parents, because like you said, when it's your first child, it's scary.
It is.
The first time you're being a parent, it's really scary. And having somebody pat you on the back and say, I've been there, you're going to get through this, and we're going to do it together. And just seeing that kind of shoulders relax and then exhale and really believe that they are going to get through it is just, it's amazing that I get to do both of those things. I get to work with children and I get to be around parents. And like I said, it really does fulfill me. It really is my calling that I get to do that every day.
So perfect segue. Let's talk about play and entrance exams to preschool. Honestly, ridiculous.
I just can't even believe that there's an entrance exam to preschool. I mean, what's the entrance exam? Like, I just can't even imagine what that would entail. And children learn from their environment. So it's much more important to have a literature-rich environment that has lots of toys to play with, lots of opportunity to explore, lots of opportunity to use different implements to write with. All of those things are important, and the children will learn by playing. They're going to learn how to share when they have to negotiate with their peers. They're going to learn about their colors and their shapes and their numbers and their letters, and you do not have to sit down with flashcards and show them what they are. You really don't.
No, it's so true. And, I have to share this with my listeners. My babies in my room are anywhere from 6 weeks to 12 months, and we did an activity with them last week with shaving cream. We have a little table that has 6 seats in it, and the ones that could sit up, we sat in there, and even the ones that couldn't do it great, we held on to them, and we put shaving cream on a big butcher block piece of paper and put a couple drops of food coloring in it and let them put their hands in it. And that's playing and that's learning too. The shaving cream is cold. They get to use their fine motor skills. Mm-hmm. They just have fun. One little boy was green. He put it all over his chest. And even the youngest babies, my grandson is 4 months old, and I sat him there and put his hands in it and his eyes wide. He probably had no clue what shaving cream is. I know he didn't. But even young children, that's how they learn, and that's play, and it's so much fun.
It is, and they learn that they can have fun while they're learning. And so if you develop children who develop a love for learning, they'll be successful students as they get older because they'll enjoy that process. And there's so many things. That shaving cream is my favorite activity.
It's fun.
Because all of that tactile stimulation, really, those fine motor skills, they develop the muscles in their hand that eventually is going to help them hold a pencil. If they don't have an opportunity to do those types of things and get messy, I know parents don't love that part, but we'll do it at school so you don't have to do it at home. But touching that shaving cream and developing those muscles in their fingers is going to help them as they get older.
Absolutely.
And it's just marvelous, yeah.
You know what? And don't send your kids to school dressed up. I mean, if they come home messy, they had a great time. If they have paint on them, if they have dirt under their fingernails, if they're outside planting a little garden, if they're a toddler, they've had a great time. If they come home totally clean. Also, the other thing is when you walk down the hallway, especially come to our school, and you will never see a picture of a face where the eyes, nose, and mouth are in the right place. Mm-hmm. If they are, you probably haven't done the picture.
Right, and that's so important to that, and we can have a whole other show probably talking about process versus product. It's so much more important that they smear that paint all over the place and that they put 17 eyes, if they want 17 eyes, down where the mouth is supposed to be, or you shouldn't know what it is. I had a parent once say to me, "What is it?" And I said, I knew at that moment that that we had a successful art project because you couldn't tell what it was, and you shouldn't be able to. It should be an opportunity for the child to say to you, "This is," and let them tell you the story about whatever it is on the paper.
Exactly. Don't ask. Don't say, "What is this?" No. We've learned that years ago. Don't say, "What is this?" And then don't ever say, "Well, it doesn't look like that."
Oh, gosh, no. Just say, "Tell me about your picture. Tell me about your picture."
Tell me about your picture. Tell me about your day, because as they get older, they're not going to tell you, "How was school?" "Fine." "What'd you do?" "Nothing."
Nothing.
I hated those days. They were so tough. So is there any part that's tough to be a director, or is it all wonderful? You're such a good director.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. I think having the difficult conversations when there aren't special needs that are evident, having those conversations with parents when intervention is necessary, and really conveying that it's coming from a place of love and desire for what is best for a child. Though that's hard, because there's pain in a parent's eye when you have to have those conversations.
But you know
and
what?
I know the end result, but...
Sorry, when you have somebody like you that is so warm and wonderful and can put, your arm around them and say, we'll work on this together, that's worth $1 million. So on that note, I have to say goodbye to you because we are at the end of the show. You have definitely got to come back and we'll talk all about play because it will take up an entire hour. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Thank you so much for being on the show. So many great tips. And I will see you soon. Have a great rest of your day, Debbie. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Have a great day, too. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. I just love Debbie. What a great show. And I have to say, her tips are wonderful. And, when you first meet her, you just see the warmth that's there and how much she loves what she does. And I have to say, in our school, all the teachers love what they do. And when you choose a preschool, make sure your teachers are really happy and they do love what they do. So next week, my guest will be Connie Grunning from peanutbutterandwine.com. It's the first Wednesday in October. So you know what that means? She's going to tell us what's hot and what's not in October. And I am very excited because I'm going to have Connie stay for the entire show. It's going to be a grandma show. She's a grandma, and we're going to talk all about being a grandma, do's and don'ts, favorite tips. So if you're a grandma or if you have your mom or mother-in-law, tell them to tune into the show next week, first Wednesday in October, 11 o'clock Eastern, on TogiNet right here. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter, on Facebook. I have 2 pages on Facebook, My Best Parent Advice and Baby Instructions. I'm also on Pinterest and LinkedIn and Google, and of course, my website, mybestparentingadvice.com. Take a look at my blog post. I know it's kind of scary, talking about guns and lasers and all of that and babysitters. But you know what? Unfortunately, in our world, it's a fact of life, and it's good to know about it. Hopefully, you will never, have a situation that happens. So I would like to leave you today with a little humor. I work with children, so I know what you did last night, and so does the rest of the class. That's what the teacher says to a mom. And mom confession number 25, I bring my child to preschool in the morning with a dirty diaper, and guess what? I act surprised. Yeah, right. And finally, you know what? As the teacher says, this business of training little humans for life can be a mind-boggling business. It sure can be mind-boggling, but what could be better than watching these little ones blossom and grow and know that you're playing such a big part in their lives? Give the teachers credit. They love what they do, and you need to love them. So thanks so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.